Now let's get to how we find Pickens' replacement, because obviously Pickens is no longer a Steeler. He's in Dallas. Our receiver room is eerily similar to what it was looking like last year, and we kept complaining on how we don't have enough depth at the receiver position outside of Pickens, but instead of having Pickens now, it's DK Metcalf as our wide receiver one, our top receiver. But there's a lot of uncertainty after that. Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, talented. We got to see some glimpses from Calvin Austin last year, but I don't think anyone is viewing him as a bona fide number 2. His upside is like probably an 800-yard receiver as your slot guy, as your wide receiver 3. He's not a dude that you could be consistently putting on the outside like that just because of his size. Roman Wilson, we drafted in the 3rd round. High on him, national champion at Michigan. Good route runner, good at blocking too. But he didn't play at all last year. And he has injury concerns. And then you got the veteran receivers like Robert Woods, who is basically like this year's version of Van Jefferson and Allen Robinson. We shouldn't be having any high hopes for him of recalibrating his career here in Pittsburgh, especially given his age. He's just a veteran presence in the locker room. I don't even know if he's going to make the team, to be honest. But then you got Scotty Miller, you got Ben Skoranek. Those dudes were here last year too. Now, I guess we did trade for Mike Williams at the trade deadline, but we barely used him. So, I mean, it's kind of similar to having him here this year or not here this year. We didn't even use him. His name was on the roster. His name was on the depth chart, but we barely used him outside of that game-winning touchdown against the Commanders in his first game. So the roster, from a receiver standpoint, very similar to last year. And that was a problem. So Steelers kind of have a problem on their hands right now, with it just being DK Metcalf and then all the question marks after him. So fair to assume our work isn't done in the receiver room. Like we just gave ourselves a new issue to worry about for the rest of this offseason. We had the receiver room set with DK, Pickens, and the rest of the guys. But now since we traded Pickens and we just have DK as really our only like bona fide guy that we could rely on, now we've created a new issue. And we got to take care of that. We're going to have to add to this receiver room. We're going to have to bring in something, bring in another weapon for this offense that we could feel good about. And there are guys out there. Free agency. There's some trade stuff that we could do. And that's about it, really. I mean, the draft's over. So that's where we're at. Now, there's degrees of likelihood when you're talking about trades. There's some pie in the sky type of trade rumors that are floating out there. And then there's ones that are definitely more realistic. And then the free agents are the free agents. They're available right now. And we're about a little over a month and a half removed from free agency. There's no rush, it feels like, to sign any of these guys that are out there and available. It's veteran dudes that they know what's up. They don't feel like they have to sign on right now and join a team to do their OTAs, minicamp, or anything like that. So they're not stressing. There's not much for us. I'm talking about Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Gabe Davis did just get released by the Jaguars. He's out there. So let's start with, because there's a lot of directions the Steelers can go with adding to this receiver room. Let's start with the free agents. And the guys I just mentioned are clear and obvious connections right now. Amari Cooper, he's sitting out there. Keenan Allen, he's sitting out there. And Gabe Davis. So if I had to rank these three, it's tough. You can make a case for any one of them. Because Gabe Davis, he's the one that's most in his prime. He was 25 last year with the Jaguars. Going to be turning 26 for the 2025 season. And he didn't get that nickname of what's a big game Gabe for nothing. Because he, like with the Bills and some of those playoff games, he went off. He had some really good performances. He had the 4-touchdown game and the one against the Chiefs. I think that was a divisional game where they lost. That was the whole 13 seconds. Mahomes came down, tied it up, and then they won in overtime. But you look at his last 2 years in Buffalo, not shabby from a regular season standpoint. 836 yards in 2022 with 7 touchdowns. In 2023, 746 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like, that's not bad, man. That's not bad at all. And he's still at a point in his career where I don't think the juice is gone. I don't think the upside's gone. The talent and like the dynamic potential playmaking is gone. You know what I mean? I mean, that naturally happens as you get older, you get into your 30s. You don't have it like that from an athleticism standpoint. But Gabe Davis, it shouldn't be like that with him. Now, he did have that down year in Jacksonville, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they just released him because he failed a physical. So injuries could play a part in him not being as spry as what he was in Buffalo. But there's a case for him because there's something with his contract, almost like what happened with Russell Wilson, where Denver cut him and we were able to sign him for a vet minimum. He was still able to get his money from his former team. So like it did him no good to try to raise the number for the new squad, which was the Steelers that he was signing with. So it's like a similar thing apparently with Gabe Davis. Whatever team he signs with, it's most likely going to be a vet minimum. So that makes me think, why not? I mean, why not sign a couple guys? Why not sign a Gabe Davis for the vet minimum and then also pick up an Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen? But if we are only going to sign one, which is probably the most likely thing that's going to happen, like who's the best free agent out there? And that's what I'm saying. Like Gabe Davis, okay, I could kind of see that. There's positives to his game. More of a deep threat, a burner, a guy that you could send out there to stretch the field. And that's something that Pickens brought to the table. Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, not really there with their games at this point. But superior route runners, have a veteran savvy to their game, and just have been better overall receivers throughout the course of their careers. And if you want like a compliment to DK Metcalf, these are the type of guys you'd be talking about. Gabe Davis, a lighter version of DK Metcalf, a little bit worse version, but you got two guys on the outside, similar skill sets. Again, DK Metcalf is just flat out right better, but Gabe Davis, DK Metcalf, guys that can stretch the field, more deep threats. Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen would be more compliments to DK Metcalf. But they also had down years. Like there's a reason all three of these guys are available. Keenan Allen had a down year with the Bears. Amari Cooper, down year in Cleveland and Buffalo. And then Gabe Davis, down year in Jacksonville. But in 2023 for Amari Cooper, 1,250 yards and 5 touchdowns. We were talking about him being a top 10, top 15 receiver. Keenan Allen in 2023 with the Chargers, 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns and only 13 games. That's one of the problems with Keenan Allen, though. The dude's always hurt. But when he's out there, he's been easily one of the top, I would say top 5 or 6 receivers over the last decade. I'm saying that off the top of my head, but the dude when on the field performs. He's got about 5 or 6 1,000-yard seasons out there. He's like a 6-time Pro Bowler. You got to say over the last decade, he's in that top 5 or 6 range. But with the Bears last year, again, yeah, had a little bit of a downturn, 744 yards, 7 touchdowns. Although that's not bad. If you're talking about like a wide receiver 2 or like have a safety valve type of guy, 744 yards, 7 touchdowns in a kind of bad Bears situation. Caleb Williams struggling his rookie season. You know, Bears didn't have that good of an offensive line. They fired their OC midway through the season. It's actually not that bad, and that was only in 15 games. So he had 2 more games to try to up those numbers that he missed out on. But again, with Keenan Allen, that's what you're going to get. Injuries and missed games, naturally. So, man, there's a case for any one of these guys. I wouldn't mind signing. Honestly, I would take Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper over Gabe Davis. If I had to pick between these three, and then between Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper, that's tough. It feels like Keenan Allen had the better year last year, but you could also make excuses for Amari Cooper. Going from Cleveland to Buffalo midway through the season, he had his own injuries he was dealing with. That's tough. That's tough. I think ultimately what this really comes down to, it doesn't matter who I think is the better fit for this offense. It comes down to who Aaron Rodgers thinks is the better fit for this offense. Whatever receiver he thinks is better between Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, that's who we should get. honestly, it wouldn't be would it be that far-fetched to just sign a couple of these guys? What if we sign both Cooper and Keenan Allen? Or is that too many old guys? Especially if we bring in Aaron Rodgers. It sounds like it'd be an amazing lineup in, like, 2016 if you have Aaron Rodgers, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, and DK Metcalf, although DK Metcalf, he wasn't in the league at that point. Let's say 20. Yeah, 2020, this would be an all-star team lineup. So I would pick the vets over Gabe Davis, especially with Gabe Davis just not being as good as Cooper Allen throughout the course of all their careers, whenever you combine all their body of works, but coming off of that failed physical too. Crappy year in Jacksonville. Crappy year too, like way worse than the crappy years of Cooper and Keenan Allen. So Gabe Davis, of these three, I would be taking the pass on. Whoever Rodgers feels like is the better receiver for his system and how he wants to operate between Cooper and Allen, I'd be good with. And you're not having to sign them to anything major. It's going to be something cheap. It's going to be like a 1-year deal for $10 million or less. What about trades, though? Now, the pie in the sky trades, I'm not going to go over these too much because I don't think either one of these are happening. Tyreek Hill, he is being rumored to, and not even rumored. I mean, he said it at the end of the season to be wanting out of Miami. He said, "Get me out of here." Now, he took that back a day or two later, but I feel like those sentiments still remain. I know it was heat of the moment or everything, but I think sometimes in the heat of the moment, you do say how you're really feeling, like deep down. And then it's after you regret that you said it, but you don't regret how you feel. And I think that's where Tyreek Hill is. He wants out of Miami. I think if he had to pick whether it's Miami or going to another team, he would pick trying to go to another team because he knows it's over Miami. At least any chance of him legitimately contending and trying to win a Super Bowl. I mean, I could have told him that once he got there because Tua is his quarterback and you're always going to be limited with Tua as your quarterback. But at least there were some moments with Hill in his first couple of years in Miami where that offense was going crazy and you kind of believed in certain moments that, oh man, maybe. But then, when it comes playoff time, when the cold weather hits, Tua is going to disappoint. The Miami offense is going to disappoint. Because in 2023, 2022 for Tyreek, over 1,700 yards in back-to-back seasons. He was making plays. He was doing some stuff. Let's not get it twisted. He was a top 5 receiver in this league. And then last year, little down year, but his down year is 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. And Tua was hurt for a good portion of last year, and he was dealing with, I don't even remember at quarterback. Who was their quarterback? Was it Skylar Thompson? Was he playing a portion of those games? I can't remember. Was it a combo of Skylar Thompson and someone else? But it was bad, man. Like, it was really bad. So Tyreek Hill was not washed. Don't get it twisted. The dude is easily a bona fide top 10 receiver in this league, and he's got speed. That's something that you can't teach. That's something that every team's looking for at the receiver position. Every team's looking for on offense. Something that you really gotta you really put the defense in a bind when you have a guy like Tyreek Hill out there. When you have a guy like Matthew Golden that just got drafted. It's like speed. You're seeing what the Chiefs are doing with Xavier Worthy. So Tyreek Hill not only has the speed, but he's just an overall like great receiver. Has been for years now. Has been over the last decade. So he's basically on a 1-year deal with Miami. I looked at his contract. I said I wasn't going to spend too much time on this because it's probably not going to happen. But here I am rambling about this for the last like 2-3 minutes. But anyway, he's basically on a 1-year deal in Miami. He said he wants out. The vibes are down there. He's got a $27 million cap hit this year. It's bad next year, which is why, again, it's basically a 1-year deal. It's $51 million on the cap hit next year, but it's a $15.5 million dead cap. So most likely, whatever new team he goes to, the contract's either going to have to get restructured at the end of the year, or they're just going to cut him and take on that $15.5 million in dead cap. And honestly, with how the salary cap keeps going up, that might just go hand in hand with what the inflation is for next year with the salary cap. It's not going to be that big of a deal. So Tyreek Hill might seriously be on the market here. And if the Steelers are serious about going all in 2025, now we're getting mixed messages about that with us just trading Pickens. But if you gave up, I don't know. I don't know what Tyreek Hill would go for on a 1-year deal with his age, what his cap hit is. It might be exactly what we got for Pickens, and we got a ton of third-round picks right now. It could be a third-round pick, and you get Tyreek Hill on a 1-year deal. Now, you may be trading one headache for another, but this is a headache the Steelers may be willing to put up with because of how good Tyreek Hill is. And in terms of like on the field stuff and like being team first, I don't think you hear as much about that with Tyreek Hill as we've experienced with George Pickens. And just the overall player that Tyreek Hill is versus George Pickens is much to a much higher caliber. As I said, 1,700 yards in back-to-back seasons in 2022 and 2023. Bro, like he's a top 3 to 5 receiver. Pickens is acting out, and you get some of his antics, and I don't even know. He's borderline top 20. I don't know. Yeah, probably top 20. You can make a case for him between probably like top 16, 17 to 25. Whereas Tyreek Hill is, when he's on, he's top 3 easily, top 5. No question about it. And it's for a 1-year deal. Like the Steelers would maintain their flexibility for the future too by getting Tyreek Hill. They're not leveraging the future. If they get an Aaron Rodgers here, they could have a roster that's legitimately built to win right now. But then when 2026 hits, you could be resetting the clock, drafting your franchise quarterback in that draft, but then you still have a ton of pieces on the roster that are set up nicely for the future too. Now it might go really well, and you re-sign Rodgers. You keep a lot of the pieces in place. You keep a lot of the veterans that are on these 1-year deals in place, and then you're off to the races again in 2026. You could do that, but Tyreek Hill, like trading for him, wouldn't necessarily like set us off path or anything. I don't think. Brandon Ayuk, that would be another high-profile trade. Think it's a little bit more out there. But we were connected to Brandon Ayuk heavily last offseason. His contract's kind of brutal, though, compared to Tyreek Hill. It goes into 2026 and 2027 with $40 million cap hits. Now, there's an out in 2026 where you'd have a $21 million dead cap. But that's a little bit – that feels a little bit more significant. Although Tyreek Hill's would only be 15.5. It's not too far off, I guess, and that's in a couple years. So I'm sure Omar Khan can finagle the contract a little bit. There's restructures because the cap hits for these next 2 years, it's only $9 million and $15 million. That's extremely affordable for a guy of Brandon Ayuk's caliber. Extremely affordable, but it's the long-term portion of the contract when you start to leverage some things, and you got to start to worry about those dead cap hits that. It's like, I don't know if I really want to sign up for this. He's coming off the ACL injury, too. That's another thing with him. Is he really going to get back to what he was? And honestly, with Ayuk, he doesn't have the resume of a Tyreek Hill. He doesn't even have the resume of a Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper, to be honest. He has one, like, really good season. The other ones are solid. But the one good season where you're considering him an all-pro, top Pro Bowl type of player, like that was it. It's not like you're getting that from Brandon Ayuk season in, season out. And then you look back to how last offseason went, and it came down to us versus the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk had the decision. Where do you want to go? And it felt like he played the Steelers the whole way through. He played us to get the better contract with the 49ers. He didn't really want to come to the Steelers. So there might be some bad blood there too. I don't know. That one just, between the two high-profile trades, Tyreek Hill makes more sense to me than Brandon Ayuk. And then with the free agents, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, I like those moves over a Gabe Davis. And then everyone else that's out there, I don't even think there should be serious thoughts. The next biggest name guy is Tyler Boyd, and I feel like he's over the hill. But there's a connection to Pittsburgh because he's from here, went to Pitt. Now, some of the other trades, less high profile, I think these make sense too, man. I think, honestly, they make too much sense. Like a Romeo Doubs with Green Bay. Christian Watson from Green Bay because of the connection to Aaron Rodgers. Allen Lazard from the Jets connection to Aaron Rodgers. Jets are in like this rebuild, reset mode. Now, Lazard tweeted out that he doesn't want to leave the Jets. He posted the Wolf of Wall Street meme where DiCaprio says, "I'm not leaving." But if the Steelers offer him something that the Jets can't refuse, Alan Lazard's not going to have too much say in it. He'd honestly probably secretly rather be with the Steelers than the Jets, to be honest. I think, if anything, that tweet was just for good PR, just to let people know, like, I'm not the one pushing these trade rumors. I'm not the one that is saying that I want to be out of here. We went over to the Texans yesterday. They got a busy receiver room. Christian Kirk, they just signed this offseason or traded for this offseason. They also have Higgins, Noel that they drafted from Iowa State. John Mechie's still there. Tank Dell, Nico Collins. I don't think we're getting Nico Collins, obviously. Indianapolis Colts. We were talking about them in the middle of last season with Pittman, Pierce, Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell. Those are 4 guys that Colts have a fair amount invested in terms of draft capital, but you're not going to get 4 receivers on the field at a very high clip. Feels like one of them's got to go at some point when you're talking about contracts, because Michael Pittman's got a deal right now, but eventually you're going to have to pay Pierce, you're going to have to pay Downs, you're going to have to pay Mitchell. One of those guys could very well be on the block. And then I already mentioned some of the Packers guys, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. Those make sense. The connection to Aaron Rodgers is there. Dobbs more than Watson. But those would feel like sensible moves where you don't have to give up much. Probably a late round pick for Dobbs, late round pick for Watson. They're still productive receivers. They're not has-beens or anything like that. They're not bad. Watson, a 600-700 yard type receiver. Same thing with Dobbs. They're not Pickens. No one's questioning that. But in terms of being a deep threat, in terms of adding some pop to your offense, and in terms of adding just some security. Again, they're not Pickens, but you at least know these guys are professionals. You at least know these guys can be viable receivers out there for you. And the thing I like about, honestly, of the guys that are connected to Rodgers, I would pick Dobbs over all of them because I felt like Rodgers liked Dobbs in Dobbs' rookie year and Rodgers last year in Green Bay. And Dobbs, he probably's got the most pop. Now, Watson's more of a deep threat, but as an overall receiver, I think Dobbs has the most upside and potential still. Lazard, we know what he is. We know what Lazard he brings to the table. It's just like, okay, dude. Like, this is it. We're getting out of you is like 600-700 yards. Dobbs, you could see him on maybe his best season getting up to 900 yards, 1,000 yards, maybe. And how about this? Take this with a grain of salt. Do what you want with this information. But the Steelers have inquired, according to Andrew Filipponi, according to his source, about Packers receiver Romeo Doubs. Green Bay drafted 2 receivers, and Rodgers played with Doubs in 2022. It's believed that Rodgers really likes Doubs. We'll see where this goes. There you go. Of all the reports that are out there, maybe Doubs is the front runner in the clubhouse to be in a future Steeler. Of all the receivers that are available, whether free agency, trades, I think this is the only. And now we did get something from Florio about Lazard, where he said Lazard in play for a Steelers trade. So maybe Lazard, Doubs, the 2 front runners. We'll say that. Depending on who you believe more from a reporting standpoint, Filipponi or Florio. How about that? Who's in the pole position between Doubs and Lazard to becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler? But those are the guys. Those are the names. Those are all the people that are out there that I think could be serious candidates for being the next Steelers wide receiver 2. High-profile names, Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, guys that are free agents that also are, let's not get it twisted, these are high-profile names. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, they're out there. They're chilling. Coming off of down seasons. Gabe Davis. Wouldn't be that excited about him. But again, what's holding us back? What's holding us back? How about this? What's holding us back from trading for Tyreek Hill and also signing Amari Cooper? What's holding us back from doing something like that, doing something crazy? Nothing's holding us back. We got a bunch of this draft capital. Tyreek Hill doesn't want to be in Miami. He's going to be on the trade block. It's not going to take a lot to get him because he's only going to be on essentially a 1-year deal. He's got a big cap hit. The Steelers could afford that cap hit, especially if Aaron Rodgers takes a $10 million deal to sign here. And even if Rodgers doesn't come here, you still got Mason Rudolph on a cheap deal. So we could afford the Tyreek Hill cap hit. You could sign Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen to something in the, less than $10 million range. Or even trading for Tyreek Hill and also trading for Doubs. Or trading for Doubs or trading for Lazard and also signing Amari Cooper or Gabe Davis. We can sign multiple guys. I know we have faith. We have some type of belief in Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin. But why not just really go all in? Why not really make a splash here? Everyone's down about the Pickens trade. Okay, you guys are the con artists can really flip the tables here and say, yeah, Steeler Nation, you guys are really mad at me right now for trading Pickens for a 3rd-round pick. What about this? What about we just traded for Romeo Doubs and signed Amari Cooper? How's that? And we still keep really good draft capital for next year. All it took to get Doubs in here was a 6th-round pick, and it took us $10 million to get Amari Cooper. How about that? It really comes down to what Aaron Rodgers wants, though. We could talk about who's the best fit for the system, this and that. We got to know who our quarterback is first. We got to know what Aaron Rodgers is doing. And then I would literally say, Rodgers, who do you think is going to be the best here? Who do you think you're going to mesh with most? This is what we're thinking. Who do you want? We already got you a DK Metcalf. We got you some upside guys after him and Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. But who's a guy you could feel confident in that can give you some security day one? Hopefully it's not Lazard. Hopefully this Doubs rumor is true. I would rather have Doubs than Lazard. If it is Lazard, whatever. It's not the end of the world. But that's not stopping us from maybe making another move, right? So that's it for today's show. Let me know your thoughts on what receiver direction the Steelers should be going now that we don't have George Pickens. Stay chilling. Have a safe weekend out there. Here we go, Steelers. Peace.